Among Us is a homicidal maniac and another vocabulary words for the game of murderers. Learning target. I can use vocabulary to describe the murders and exiles of murderers in the game Among Us. Homicidal maniac. Homicide means murder. A homicidal maniac is a crazy person who murders. Example: that homicidal maniac killed everyone in Among Us with a machete. Exsanguination. Exsanguination means death by bleeding out. All the victims in Among Us die by exsanguination. There is always a pool of blood under their lifeless corpses. Exsanguinate. Exsanguinate means to die by bleeding out. Quick, help him! He is going to exsanguinate if we don't do something to stop the blood. Perp. Perp means perpetrator. Perpetrator of the crime means the one who committed the crime. Example: I think the perp is orange. I saw him leave the victim to exsanguinate on the floor. Corpse. Corpse means a dead body. What happens to the corpses in Among Us? Do they go to the morgue? Morgue. Morgue is the hospital laboratory where the dead are taken for autopsy. The Among Us morgue is always crowded with corpses because there are so many homicidal maniacs in that game. Autopsy. Autopsy is a doctor's inspection of a corpse to determine the cause of death. The autopsy results in Among Us are always the same: exsanguination. Exile. Exile means to kick someone out of the group. Whenever a suspect is accused of homicide in Among Us, he is exiled to outer space. Suspect. The suspect is a person who someone thinks committed a crime. The suspect is orange. Let's exile him. Crimson. Crimson is the color red. Poor Crimson, she is just a corpse now. Indigo. Indigo is the color blue. Indigo witnessed the homicide. He saw orange murder Crimson. Intangibility. Intangibility is the ability to pass through physical matter, like walls. Perpetrators of homicide in Among Us have intangibility, which sometimes makes them suspect if their passing through a wall is witnessed. Council. A council is a meeting held to discuss a matter of importance. The players in Among Us must always hold a council after every homicide to determine which one of them will be exiled. Interrogation. Interrogation means to question a suspect. The interrogation of Crimson lasted 20 minutes before he was found innocent and the players voted to exile Orange. Victor. The victor is the winner. The victor in Among Us is either the killer who remained undetected or the survivors who apprehended the killer and exiled him before they themselves exsanguinated. Apprehend. Apprehend means to catch a criminal. Let's apprehend Orange. I witnessed his intangibility, so he must be the perp. Dumb. Dumb is the inability to speak. Among Us is always silent because the players must remain dumb during the game. Being dumb is one of the rules of gameplay. Verdict. Verdict is the decision by the jury as to the guilt or innocence of a suspect. The council verdict is that Orange is guilty of homicide. Crimson is innocent. How many of these words do you know and will use in the game Among Us? How many of the words on this list do you feel comfortable with using in the game Among Us? List 3 or more words you will use when next you play the game.